The Trump administration just took a major step to potentially lock up millions of undocumented immigrants. In a recent memo, the acting director of ICE told agents that immigrants who arrived in the U.S. illegally were no longer eligible for a bond hearing while they fight their deportations in court. In other words, those previously allowed to remain out on bond as their case made its way through the immigration system, a process that could take years, now must be taken into custody and remain there until they're deported. Tactics like these are leading some undocumented immigrants to self-deport and sometimes take the American citizens in their families with them. Here's CNN's Priscilla Alvarez with that story.
These are the main pictures from our house that we didn't want to just throw away.
Sasha Mendoza has the impossible task of packing up her family's life in Pittsburgh into a handful of suitcases.
It's really hard to tell a 4-year-old that they can't bring their toys or their stuffed animal. There's just not enough room. We can't put a stuffed animal and then have no pants. I've literally never felt anxiety the way that I have in the last few years here.
So you are saying bye to the U.S. for good?
For good, yeah. Yeah, for good.
Fearful of President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown, Sasha, her husband Julio, and their 3 kids are leaving behind the life they built together.
What are you the most excited for in Mexico?
The pool.
The pool?
And the beach.
The beach?
Julio is an undocumented immigrant from Mexico. Sasha and their 3 children are all U.S. citizens. They decided to make the move together only moments after Trump took office.
There was an executive order being signed, and that was her call for, said, like, what do you think about moving to Mexico? And I said, honestly, at this point, yeah, let's do it.
We're gonna move to Mexico.
We're gonna move to Mexico, not today.
And with that, the family began to wind down their lives, sifting through keepsakes and moving out of their home.
Say bye to the house.
Bye. Miss you.
When you were dating, did your status as being undocumented come up at all?
And then our first date, we kind of like were mentioning it without mentioning it. And at one point, he ordered a drink and he asked for extra ice. And I said, no, we don't do ice here. And he was like, That was like the only thing we needed to say.
So, by the way.
Julio crossed the U.S. southern border when he was 11 years old, and he's lived in Pittsburgh ever since.
One of his first concerns when we talked about moving is like, how am I going to watch the Steeler games?
You're a Pittsburgh native for all intents and purposes.
Oh my God, yeah.
What made Trump a second term more nerve-wracking for you, that to come to a decision that you had to leave the country?
There are no limits. There are no limits on being a target. The only main concern is like, he looks brown, he looks different, he don't speak English. He's the one. It doesn't matter.
That's where things stand tonight in the case of Gilmar Abrego Garcia.
They were confronted with their worst nightmare when Gilmar Abrego Garcia was mistakenly deported to a notorious mega prison in El Salvador.
I can see myself in that, and I don't want us to wait until we're in the same situation.
There are people who will say, you came to the U.S. illegally, why didn't you do it the right way? What do you say to people?
If you were to be put in my situation at my age to tell me do it the right way, the whole process pretty much takes about 15 to 20 years. By that time, I don't think my kids or anyone's kids who are starving or in a dangerous situation can wait 15, 20 years for you to come here and start working.
What did we say that we could get when we get there?
OPS Sonic.
No, we did not say that.
How did you approach the conversation with your kids?
They know the realistic part of it, which is that it will be very difficult for them to adapt to, especially mostly language-wise. That's like our biggest thing. They're not anywhere near fluent, and they are going to be going into a school that is Spanish-speaking. Who's that? That's you!
For Sasha, leaving the U.S. also means saying goodbye to the places she's called home.
You grew up at this house. What is it like for you to leave this house and what it represents to you?
It is definitely hard because, yeah, there's a lot of good memories. This has always been like the kind of comeback place. As far as we know, we won't be able to do that. We've kind of all decided that today is most likely the last time that we'll all be like in the same place at the same time.
Hours of research behind them, the Mendoza family spent their final days in Pittsburgh saying goodbye to family and friends.
Stay in touch, right? No? I love it too, Big Dad. Stay safe, stay safe.
It's a decision not taken lightly, but for Julio, no other choice.
Rolling the dice will be staying here. That will be rolling the dice. Playing with my life, playing with my kids' life, playing with my wife's life. That would be a gamble. I would say it's taking a gamble. I'm taking a certain win on this one, for sure.
Now, Anderson, Sasha, and Julio are now settling in Mexico, but they join a newly emerging community of people who are voluntarily departing the United States. It's called self-deportations, and it's part of the Trump administration's strategy. Senior Trump officials have touted it often, and they've taken to the airwaves with multi-million-dollar ad campaigns and offering financial incentives, like one-way tickets to the country where they have legal status and $1,000 exit bonus once they arrive. But for Sasha and Julio, they didn't need that. It was the uncertainty of what was to come with the immigration crackdown that was enough to get them to leave. But also, Anderson, what we learned over the course of this reporting is it's not just undocumented immigrants making these decisions, but also the U.S. citizens that they are married with or have children.
The Pentagon just confirming 2,000 California National Guard troops are being withdrawn from Los Angeles, nearly 5 weeks after the anti-ICE protests ended. Of course, taxpayers footed the bill for those 5 weeks. Those poor guardsmen couldn't come home. The protests that Trump said he was sending troops in to quell, right? They ended 5 weeks ago, sending in those troops against the wishes of Governor Gavin Newsom. Let me just show you this video because I shot this video on June 10th in downtown LA. That was the first day that I was looking around saying there's a heck of a lot of National Guard here and there are no protesters. At that time, there were no protesters, but plenty of National Guard. But those troops are only being sent home now, more than a month later. Comes as Governor Gavin Newsom takes on President Trump over sending in the troops in the first place.
It's a weakness masquerading as strength. That's what I don't like about this son of a bitch. I don't. And forgive me, I know he's the president of the States. Forgive me, I didn't, yeah, he calls me new scum. Come on. How do I explain that to my kid?
Comes as new data shows Trump's signature issue, immigration, may be starting to backfire. Harry Enton is out front now to tell us something we don't know. But Harry, this is crucial. So Trump is betting big on immigration. His administration is, right? Yeah. You see Homan out there all the time. Is there any deterioration in support for what's happening?
Absolutely there is. You mentioned it. Immigration had been Donald Trump's big issue. It helped get him elected back in 2024. It was his best issue overall. We look at the net positive approval rating back in early part of June before, of course, all these protests, the ICE raids actually started. You see it right there on your screen, plus 5 points on June 6th. Look at what has happened to his net approval on immigration. It has gone down underwater, now at minus 3 points, an 8-point move tied, in my opinion, directly to the ICE raids and then the protests. People do not like what Donald Trump's currently doing on immigration.
No, and that's a really fast move for
very
something
fast.
of that scale of 8 points. Okay, now take this to what that could mean. Nearly half, 50% of Hispanic voters backed Trump in the election. It was a seismic shift in the Hispanic vote, and it could change politics in this country. So where do they stand? Where does that vote stand?
Yeah, you mentioned it. Donald Trump put up the best performance for a Republican candidate among Hispanic voters since we've had exit polls in 1972. But look at the net approval rating amongst Hispanic voters now versus where he was in the beginning of the term. Look at this drop. In early February, he was underwater, but only by 11 points, far better than he was doing during his first term. Now look at that, minus 28 points. That's a nearly 20-point drop, and I can tell you can tie that directly to his net approval rating on immigration among Hispanics, which was positive at the beginning of his term and now is way, way underwater, very close to his overall net approval rating with Hispanic voters.
So this is where I say, tell me something I don't know, Harry. But I think I must preface it with, you've already told me 2 things I didn't know.
Oh, okay.
So you can just be done. No, I'm just kidding. Tell me something else I don't know.
I'll tell you something else that you don't know. We could be looking at the first year in a really long time in which the net migration is actually negative in this country. And what could that lead to? A massive deterioration in the GDP. Trump's immigration policies could, in fact, lead to, get this, a loss of $94 billion on GDP. My goodness gracious.
All right. Harry, thank you very much.
Thank you.